I was sitting on the stairwell, you know, as kind of like, you shall not pass unless you let me suck your dick.
All right. This is my space.
Yeah.
If you want to come through, you're going to have to come
Party
through.
with my mouth.
Yeah. Welcome to Behind Closed Doors, the official Sydney Sauna podcast hosted by yours truly, Paisley Heart. This podcast is your cheeky and candid space for unfiltered queer voices and tantalizing stories. So come with me. Our guest is Australia's indie pop prince, internationally acclaimed for his breakout single Stupid, which has garnered millions of streams. His provocative single House of Air sparked global controversy, the drama, and has landed in Vulture's magazine's top 5 music videos of the year. A versatile talent. Brendan has been ARIA nominated, featured in Baz Luhrmann's, which I had to get drilled in, I couldn't get that last name, The Great Gatsby, and performed at 2024's Eurovision. He is currently, look, we stretch it.
Thanks.
He is currently collaborating with his lifelong hero, Paul Mac.
Paul Mac.
Music. For our imaginary audience, Brendan Maclean is here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's drama.
See you later.
So I want to first talk about that ARIA nomination when I was like doing a little bit of Googling. So it's with Marsha Hines.
Oh, mama.
And I feel like there's a funny Venn diagram with you when I've observed you over the years of there's this, I feel like you're like attached into the mainstream in Australia, but also like one of the most gayest out there artists that I know. And on your Spotify, there was a perfect Venn diagram of you. It has like a little section of found in, and one is This Is Marsha Hines playlist, and the other is the gay sex playlist. I feel like you sit right in the middle here. It's like gay sex and Marsha Hines right in the middle is Brendan Maclean.
It's me.
It's you.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It's always something I've tried to bring into the main, like the gayness into the I guess you'd call it commercial world. And I suppose I'm just good at both. I'm good at being really gay, and I feel like I know what a lot of people want at once. But, you know, Marsha Hines taught me how to be a superstar. You know, that was when I was 21. I was still a baby on Triple J, on Unearthed, doing some presenting and finding music. But it was Marsha Hines who, you know, taught me how to sing everything instead of everything, you know. But Marsha comes from a disco background, which is you and I.
She's familiar with the gays.
Very gay. I mean, would you say she's a bit of a gay icon herself?
I don't know. I feel like you're gonna have to be the judge of that.
I can be the judge.
I don't know if I can be a fair judge of that. I think there's a bit of a like confession. I'm not the best at the pop queen gays.
Oh, good. I've got that covered. That's fine. Well, I think Marsha is a huge fan of the gays. I can say that for sure. She knows we throw the best parties. We know we're the greatest people. But there's something about her coming over here when she was 17 and she had Danny Hines on her shoulder already when she was above. So she had to go through a lot of adversity when she was coming over and getting nude as Mary Magdalene. Oh no, she was in Hair. She was in Hair, and she was one of the first nude people in Australian theatres ever.
Hot. All right.
So I think those Venn diagrams somehow
makes a gay icon.
They come back together, you know. And she was never surprised by anything I was doing, because Velvet is the show that we were nominated for.
Yes.
So best album set for a musical, and yeah, she was just never shocked. She knew that I liked to party, and she knew that gay people love great music and love disco. So I think, people are surprised, but we just got along like a house on fire for 300 shows that we did together. So we worked real hard, and we partied real hard as well. Not that she drinks, she doesn't drink at all. She's very healthy. I drank plenty for her.
You did it for her.
I did that for her.
Great.
But yeah, I've always been really proud that I've managed to pull together those two worlds. It's a very difficult thing.
It is.
Because one world, the commercial world, tells you that the hyper gay world or the hypersexual world it's not real. It should, it's meant to ruin your career. And I suppose I've always tried to test that and push things as far as I can. And I'm still not out of the job yet, you know?
Right. Do you get much pushback? Like, is it in any of the spaces you feel, or do you, like, where is that balance between accepted and, like, too much?
I think you have to take it person by person, situation by situation. I think when I feel kickback from an audience, I know I'm not meant to be there. I used to worry about that a lot. I used to worry about, I should feel really invited and welcome to every single space that I'm in because I'm really talented. I'm very special. But I think, I'm 36 now, turning 37. I started putting out music when I was 19. And one of the things I've learned is when the audience isn't there, or the audience is pushing you back, you're not meant to be there. You're just not meant to be there.
What about, like, we were just earlier talking about people like Freddie Mercury and George Michael and like the gays and queers that we are on the shoulders of.
Very sexual gays.
Very sexual gays on that. But, like, they kick down doors of places where we weren't meant to be. Where do you balance that in your life of, like, all right, I shouldn't be here, let's go somewhere else, versus, like, I shouldn't be here, but we deserve to be here. And
you are so right. Yeah, I certainly don't mean that if you ever feel unwelcome, you shouldn't try. People like Paul Mac and Johnny Seymour invited me to these spaces where I had to lean in and learn a bit more. I think that's when I know I'm meant to be there, if I'm interested, if I'm learning.
Yeah.
And so seeing something like Outside by George Michael, we're pretty much in kind of the set of Outside. We're just missing the glittering urinals.
They're coming.
That's second episode. I think what I learned from that is that even if you are in a situation where it doesn't feel right, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I love sex. I love talking about sex. I love people being free about talking about sex around me. So I think you naturally start gravitating towards those people in your life who kind of leap that safety nervous, this bit. I don't have that many friends who, cringe at anything, who are shocked by anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's freedom to me. When people can really tell me what they love and know that what the energy I'm bringing to the space is inviting as well.
Yeah.
I think that's what you can do when people, just as we are, expanding their safe space. So I think that's what George and Freddie taught me is, let people into your space, let them see it, entertain them, but keep expanding it. I want my whole suburb to feel great. Then I want my city to feel great. Then I want my country to feel great. I want the world to feel sexy and turned on.
Yes.
And so we can't boot out this commercial world.
No.
As much as they seem, I say they in this very ambiguous way, who am I talking about? I suppose, to be frank, I'm talking about heterosexuals.
Yes. Yeah.
And heterosexuals who are engaged with pop and art culture often push back a lot because they don't get to see it.
Yeah. So it's foreign, it's taboo, it's
That's
ungodly.
Right. That's right. And so what are the things that people are most afraid of? Funnily enough, it's bodily fluids. Bodily fluids seem to turn the commercial world off so much. Fine with murder, fine with aggressive images of violence in the news and in the art that they consume. But you introduce piss or cum or spit, suddenly it's off.
Or if you're Brendan Maclean, shit.
Yes, exactly.
Not just fluids, but
that's right.
Matter.
Semi-solids as well. I think I always found that interesting because I was never really turned off. I never knew what the shock was. I think I was always the kid who would see like a dead lizard and want to poke it because it's real.
Yeah.
And sex is real.
Yes.
And we all have these fluids and things that come in and out of us. So I think I was always surprised that was such a shock to everyone, because it just isn't.
You said like earlier, like your community, you're surrounded by people that you can't shock anymore. Everyone's like quite on board with everything. What was the moment like when you first put out House of Air and like dramatized there, but like also true of like it did create a lot of controversy like internationally when you did release that. Like how was that one in your community, but then also like in press and any media? How was that for you? And like, was there any shame coming up? Were you like standing your ground? And just also like, you know, because that is somewhat a coming out process. It is like really showing people the innards of your life.
Yeah.
And I know it is art, but also it's true. Like art imitates life.
Yep. I think I remember having the file on my phone, and that's all I had. I hadn't released House of Air at all. Nobody had seen it. I just had this footage on my phone. And it felt like a very powerful secret because I hadn't really investigated that side of myself or the world of kink and what I enjoyed about it, or even looked at it from an artistic practice. So I do remember sitting down in the backyard of the Panic Room, which is Paul Mack's studio. And I was there with some fabulous bears of the Sydney community, some porn stars of the Sydney community, and Paul and Johnny. I remember like thinking, this is the moment to play it to the public. And so I hit play, House of Air started, and I just silently stood there, and all of them turned to me and they were just so proud. And I realized everybody in our community had already been researching it in their own lives or had been a part of it. It was really humbling because you often think, oh, I'm the first person to do this. It was the recognition in their eyes that they were thankful for. They were like, good on you for just, it felt like something that just hadn't been said out loud. No one had said it out loud yet. No one had shown fisting or piss play or scat play in even a sense of a commercial artistic idea. I'm really glad that there are more things like that Christine, with many E's at the end, put out Butt Muscle, which was a brilliant black and white fisting video, which I adored. So it's certainly not to say that I was the only one doing it, but maybe the only one in that sort of candy pop world that I existed in. I made a record called Fun Bang that was with Universal, and I knew what I was doing. I was making a pop record that applied to everyone that was that commercial circle. I made a music video for every video, and for every song there was a music video, and there was one left. And so I finished Velvet with Marsha Hines, all those shows, and I was in London, and then I saw the book. There was the Gay Taxonomies book from 1966, and it was something from the outside in that happened to me. I looked through the book, and it's a very dry book. It looks like his mates are the ones in the photos. Because if you have seen House of Air, it's very structured, almost like a school lesson.
It's very like scientific and like step by step. It's a procedure. It's like, it feels somewhat like cloaked in a way, like it's like a bit medical. It's a jarring experience of like, in the most beautiful way of like, this both feels like I am. It's an educational video. I think that's the thing is like somehow it doesn't feel as in your face, even though it's extremely in your face, because there is like a formula or a step-by-step
dry film
it's
over
like,
the top of it.
It's this, then it's this, and they're very static shots. It's like...
And that concept definitely came from the book, and it did seem like the author had just got his mates to, you know, get in the photo and show people whipping or fisting or leather play or... And we wanted to reflect that mood in it. And so just being frank about sex and about fluids and about being inside of other people. And I think we achieved that. And it does suddenly invite a wider audience, which is why so many millions of people have watched it, because it does have that sort of clever, you are safe with us. We are confident. And we are going to show you these real things. You know, there wasn't any point where, like, I dove entirely inside someone's body. It didn't go into the fantasy, which maybe is the next video. But because it was also real, it felt like a historical project. And it felt like something I had to say. And to this day, the most natural responses I have to House of Air and the very graphic things you see are from mothers. Mothers who have had babies.
Okay.
Because they're not shocked by
They're like, hard relate. I feel seen.
Yeah. I've had things go in and out of my body you wouldn't believe that I would be shocked by.
Too much, sorry.
Absolutely.
That's too much for me.
Too much for me. Turn it up, please. So I think introducing those two Venn diagrams were really important to me personally because I was beginning to feel a bit lost inside this commercial bubble. I grew up as a dancer and then was in commercials for Nintendo and Coca-Cola and was always dancing in school instead for very clean, proper things. And I was about 26 and I decided it was time to show people the other side of me. And a side that I think is really beautiful and exciting. And I hadn't gone to a sauna before I made that video.
Oh.
A lot of people ask me if the things that I study in House of Air were my kinks. And they're really not. I'm quite vanilla.
Okay.
I'm quite a vanilla sex person.
Yeah. I relate, like, running the sex parties and this and that. I'm like, cool, can we just, like, do some normal stuff?
But you're so for it, right?
I'm so for it. I want it to be celebrated and forward-facing. But myself, I get a bit like, I don't know if you have this experience, but I get a bit, like, scared in those places when someone might be trying to pick me up or, like, interacting with me, or if I'm like interested in someone, if there's like a certain expectation because I might be a forward-facing person around sex liberation and like promoting kink and this and that it's like, oh, do I have to like be really progressive
doing
with what
that?
I do? Yeah, like, are you expecting this of me?
Yeah.
Or am I just making that narrative up in my head? But it definitely can happen sometimes that I feel there's an expectation that I might need to do more to live up to some kind of, again, I'm like not even a Z-list celebrity. I'm just a small little person in the community. But it feels, I put in my head that because I'm sex liberated and front facing with it, there is a level of expectation.
Exactly.
You get that?
Exactly how I felt. Especially when it gets to the scat play. I think people watching it are quite comfortable until they get up to those last 2 seconds and then I'll get there. Oh, no, I don't want to watch that. Someone said to me last week, this will change my opinion of you, which I found really, really interesting. And this was a young gay person watching House of Air. They said, I can't watch the last 10 seconds because you personally will change to me.
Yeah.
So then on the flip side, I get people who go, oh, you're not into that. This changes the video for me.
True.
But I really see myself as a facilitator of sexual situations, of sex-positive fun, that kind of amalgamated in this video that I needed to make to show people how proud I am.
Well, it's a bit like you're an artist that is a vessel for the community. It's just like, cool, not everyone is the pop prince, you know, not everyone is making music or has these opportunities. So rather than only representing yourself, again, like
It'd get kind of boring, wouldn't it?
It get boring. Okay, cool. We know Brendan. We know you like vanilla sex. We know you this. We know you've been through heartbreak, but it's like, cool. Can I get into like the more transpersonal of our community and channel some of that for all of us? I like. Imagine if House of Air was never out. Like, I know that there was a level of transformation for me when I first saw that of like, yeah, I did question, is that really his? But it wasn't like a judgment. It was just more like, oh, I wonder if this is art or if this is like, this is my diary. I want to show you. And I was like, again, the Venn diagram. I'm sure there's some truth between both sides. Absolutely. But to me, I was like, oh, I'm so glad that this exists. And I'm sure you can even step out and appreciate it as someone detaching yourself from it, like, oh, I see what this has done for the community, what this has done for gay and queer sex.
Yeah. Well, I think it's being powerfully curious. I think all queer people should be extremely curious because we have a beautiful history to discover. We have beautiful art to discover. And as we get more and more distracted by not ourselves making art, I think we should lean even more so into being curious about everything. then your job is to represent it as best as you can.
Yes.
So that's why it needed to be shot with porn stars, and it needed to come directly from history. I think that's where people were so interested in it. Yes, there's all the shocking imagery in it, but I think the factual queer joy that we showed in that beautiful video, and shooting it on film, respecting the imagery that we were making, it wasn't on a phone, it wasn't glitchy or poorly produced in any way. I was curious, and then I committed.
Yes.
And I think that's the highlight of historical art. I think, whenever we look back on our art, we should try our best to reflect it as close as possible to the reality, because we lose it all.
Yeah.
And we need to be a storytelling community. And I think we do that a lot through sex.
Yes.
I think we communicate with each other through flirting and sex. I think that's a beautiful language that, speaking as a gay man myself, but I think the whole queer community, God, we are just so good at sex. we
practice.
We practice, and we put on sex parties, and we have venues
like this.
Like the Sydney Sauna, that I don't know. Does the heterosexual community have something like this?
They have like swinger places. They have swinger joints.
So right.
They have swinger joints.
And why does that make me feel immediately funny? Like a bit, like
let's
fuddy duddy? Like why did I see like bad Hawaiian shirts and like keys in the bowl.
Yes, keys in the bowl. I think that's a thing.
Feel free to write in to me. Do heterosexual people have venues like Sydney Sauna? I don't know. There is I guess we've built.
I think, cruising culture essentially built to this, where there was in our history, something that I have the privilege of not having to go through, but still indulging maybe in different ways, is like the only way you could go have sex was in the bush, cruising, certain learning languages, such as what are displayed in House of Air.
Hanky code, yeah, for sure.
Hanky code. And then eventually, like, there was walls to do that within. First it was out in the bush and in the toilets, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know.
We have somewhere safe to do this.
Somewhere so safe. Like, it's incredible. Like, I love saunas. I am, again, in this like vanilla spectrum of figuring it out. I'm not the best at like jumping on Grindr. I'll go on there, but like I get a bit too nervous going and hooking up and all these things, or like cruising out in the world or at bars. But here in these walls, it feels very contextualized for me, that I can like go and live my most sluttiest fantasies. And then it's sort of like I walk out the door and it's like, okay, back to normal life. It's very contextualized to this moment. That it's like, it's honestly, I was thinking about this recently, like what are my hobbies? And literally coming to a sauna is a hobby of mine.
Absolutely.
When I first went over to Europe a couple of years ago, my partner had traveled many of times. This was my first time going overseas, and he's like putting together, like, we're going to go to the Greek islands and we'll go to this place and this restaurant and this venue and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Greece, Athens, gay sauna. Yeah. Berlin, gay sauna. Vienna, gay sauna.
And they do them really well.
They do them really, really well. But that was just like, that was my itinerary. It was like, okay, I'll go find out where the gay sauna is and we'll go check it out. And it does feel... Also, I'm there like a museum, I'm going around checking out the venue. Well, how's it different? How's the culture different? How are the men different? And how do I feel different when I'm in these spaces? And I also learned overseas is like the safety of sluttiness that I have here. Then when I went overseas, there was a new degree
level of it.
I like, oh, no one knows who I am here. I can do anything, and it's not gonna. Even though I wasn't consciously thinking that, it was just subconsciously there was a new level of liberation.
Well, I think I feel that when I go to, I usually find myself at sex on premise venues that have sort of dance parties with them. So Adam at Circuit in Melbourne, or Trough X. I think something about dancing gets me into that.
Opens the body.
Yeah,
shakes
doesn't
off
it?
anything.
It really
I think it
once
gets
you
you in your
start,
sex as well. You like start feeling eros, and you're like, oh,
sex
there's
is
bodies.
rhythmical. And
Yeah, but there's you're hot, you're sweaty. You maybe rub up against someone, and it's like, I might sneak off to the dark room now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the it's now, I can do it. I think that's why I've loved the rise of sniffies as well, that, you know, grinder and scruff, I get too caught in chit-chatting.
Ah,
It becomes
me too.
the death of that hookup. It's like, how's your day? Oh, what'd you eat? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, and then suddenly I'm like, want to add me on Instagram, and never talk to them again. So I like this bringing back of cruising culture.
Yes.
Because I just think there's nothing sexier, more confident than what we do as a community. It's all in the eyes,
Yes.
and all in holding that contact.
Yes.
And that agreement, that commitment to what might happen. Yeah, I think that's a lesson that we need to hang on to, deal, because it's real. It's like theatre. The difference between television and theatre, maybe.
It's a real play. It's a real play, but it's a multiverse, like where it can go in experiences, you know, from going in boundaries and consent to like, do I want this? Do I not want this? Like, what is the amalgamation that's about to happen? Where are we? It is a multiverse that can happen in the cruising culture.
Yeah.
First sauna experience. Tell me.
First sauna experience was Truffex.
Okay.
I walked in and asked where were the change rooms, only for the lovely man at the door to hand me a plastic bag and say, "There it is, darling." So it was a big eye opener for me. I remember going through onto the dance floor, getting a bit into it. And I went in quite sober as well.
Sober, yes.
Yeah, which I'm quite a drinker, and usually when I go to dance parties, I'm so distracted by being performative that I do need to drink a bit.
Yes.
But I wanted to be really present and safe as well. So I had a few drinks and then walked up to the dark room, and there was a gorgeous man in a sling being fisted, and he kind of looked to me and was like, "Would you like to go next?" And I guess that's how I was taught to fist somebody as well.
Okay.
It was the context that he knew what he wanted, and he was happy to teach me. And I thought there was something really sexy about that.
Beautiful.
Really sexy about someone teaching you what turns them on. I think, oof, that's a turn on. Oh.
All right. Duly noted, everyone.
Yeah. I got a bit of a good boy habit.
Teach me.
Teach me. And then it was this sudden drop of any shame. And that's what I didn't expect. I thought my shame would increase, seeing really confident people. And by the end of the night, I was sitting on the stairwell, you know, with this kind of like, "You shall not pass unless you let me suck your dick."
All right.
And so got quite confident by the end.
This is my space.
Yeah.
If you want to come through, you're going to have to come
Party
through.
with my mouth.
Yeah.
I loved watching the costumes. I love watching.
Oh, yeah, because of Truff is out. I've not been to Truff, but that's like more of an outfitted versus here is like you put a towel on.
Put a towel on.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think as a performer, I use costumes as armor.
Yes.
So that was helpful to play a bit of a character.
Yes.
As well. And then I did start to lean into what I wanted to try. Did I want to get pissed on? Did I want to get fisted? And then suddenly you realize you really like people watching you having sex.
Voyeurism is...
Yeah. And both ways as well.
You watching as well. Yes.
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 It really opened my eyes up, and other parts of me, to why I perform at all.
Yes.
And to why I make pop dance music. Because I like people watching me have fun.
Yes.
And that makes them have fun.
Yes.
So that, there was just, and thank you to whoever that man was laying in that sling, because he seemed so at peace, and you wouldn't you wouldn't think it for someone getting fisted, but so in control.
Yeah.
In control of his situation. And that's what I didn't
You'd
know.
want to be in control in that situation,
Well,
I think.
Yeah. You know, it's a whole hand and more sometimes inside of you. But the confidence that he had in that receptive role.
Yeah. Ah, gorgeous.
It's so hot to me.
What a powerful first experience. Mine was very opposite.
Go ahead.
It was here. I had just moved from Byron Bay. I was still very much coming out in certain ways. I'd had sex, and it'd been more like a very private. A few friends sort of know that I'm doing it. I'm not in the closet, but I'm not like out. And in Byron there's a like Kiva spa, which is more of a like a Balinese vibe. You wear clothes, it's very casual. And I'm living down here, and I was like, oh, I want to go to something like Kiva, right? And I did some searching online, and I had called a place like in Newtown. Sorry, we're booked up. Looking, and just like keep scrolling down. And I was like, Sydney sauna for gay men. And I'm like, oh, all right. And those places are very expensive. It's so much cheaper to come here. It's like, I don't know what the price is, but it's like $30 for as long as you want.
Yeah, right.
Versus there, it's like $30, $60 an hour at like the more Balinese treat yourself.
Get it together, Byron Bay.
Okay, so winning, I get like as long as I want. And I come here, I remember going to the door, and I'm like, oh, can you just like give me a little bit of a like explanation of how to do things? And they told me like, number one is eye contact. If you give eye contact, it's showing that you want it, right? And so I come in and I go straight to the spa. It felt like a safe space. There is porn on the TV there.
That helps.
I was like, okay, I'm a bit into it, but I'm still a bit ashamed at the same time. So I was like sort of watching it, but sort of not. And if anyone came into the spa, I'd close my eyes. I was too nervous. I was like closing my eyes. I was like, because I wasn't ready to have an interaction. And I still, I guess, like internalized homophobia at the same time. So majority of my experience, I just sort of went to like the sauna, the steam room, and like would get in there and like close my eyes. So I was very much using it in a way of like
feeling for that Paisley right now. I'm there watching Bruce be so
I was so nervous and like, yeah, just really wanted to hide, but I also wanted to be there, and I could feel that, but you know, there was somewhat like a kink in that as well, that I was like the timid one, and like I could feel that it was like also.
Did someone win you over?
I don't know if I had an experience. I think maybe like I let someone like touch me in my leg or something like that, and as they would like get closer, I started to get turned. I'd be like, okay, that's enough.
That's plenty.
That's enough. And it was like edging myself into releasing the shame. I didn't like jump off the cliff. I just felt like, oh, right. Like I'm opening, I'm expanding, I'm opening, expanding.
Therapy.
Yeah. Like I think at that point I hadn't had penetrative sex. I think actually I'd only had one or two experiences previous to that. Quite fresh. And, you know, like a few times later, this was where I lost my penetrative sex virginity.
Thanks, Sydney sauna.
Yeah. So facilitated. Thank you. But yeah, like, to hear how bold and powerful and just like, yes, you had the yes and attitude. I was more like,
right.
Okay, that's enough. But like,
did you feel safe?
I felt safe. Like, I didn't feel like anyone crossed my boundaries. I was quite confident in my no and like, no, thank you, etc. And like, I was at least guided by someone at the door what to do.
I think that if people haven't gone to a sauna yet, what really made me feel better was knowing that it was a little community, and they like, you don't talk to say people's names in a sauna often. You know, you're not pointing, going, "Hey, it's them walking in." Yeah. So I think people protect each other, and even though you know you're in the dark, there's limbs everywhere, there is kind of a sense that everyone is kind of making sure this situation is going to stay okay. And that's not what I expected. No. And that's what made me more excited to go back each time that I went, because I knew I was going to be safe. Yeah. I knew I could say no, because most people going to a sauna are aware of the language and the rules around it. Yeah. It's not this free for all that I thought it was. Yeah. There are boundaries, there are formats, there are rules to go into a sauna. So it was a lot safer than I thought.
Yeah, it feels quite safe. There is like moments, I think it's like, this can happen at dance parties and whatnot as well, like in gay spaces. But that was also one of my first experiences. Like at the time I was still identifying as a cis male, now non-binary, is like, it was one of my first experiences of feeling that like the male gaze, like, and being like, oh, like,
You are
I
on show.
am afraid right now.
Yeah.
And I think I was also playing into that a bit with my like,
Coy.
look
Look at me, look at me.
I'm just grazing over here, just an innocent deer.
Bambi in the corner.
But yeah, there is a level of coming into the confidence around that as well. Like I didn't feel like in danger, but I also didn't feel like 100% safe. But
Sure.
I think that was also just my shame and my internalized homophobia at the time, that it was like, it wasn't like they were predators. There was like the emotion and the shame was my own internalized predator that was feeding on any of the external conditionings in the world / my own
That
conditioning.
stops people from experiencing that fun. I think, yes, that idea and the knowledge that you will be gawked at, you are going to be looked at. I think a lot of people play those characters too. You know, you do think about all the roles that you can play in a sauna, and there's the dominant guy who's walking around maybe holding court in the room. But I do implore people to try and go with a friend.
Yes.
Go to a sauna with your friend.
It's a big thing. Yeah, I'm curious about that with you, like being sexual in front of friends, because that is a taboo as well. Like in maybe more so hetero world is like, but just the rest everywhere is like, that's, you're meant to hide your sex. You're meant to do it in the bedroom.
You're not meant to know, what's under this.
Yeah, you don't want to know my cock size. I don't want you to see me in pleasure. Like the vulnerability of possibly bottoming, like whatever that means to someone. Yeah, how that is for you to come along.
I wouldn't have gone if I didn't have a friend with me. I think just knowing they were in the building somewhere, and now I can go by myself. But for that first time, we just had the chat, and we had a game plan together, and it was like, okay, well, maybe I'll check in with you at 1 a.m. Maybe we can swing by, make sure we're both okay, because it was both of our first times.
Yes.
Probably should have taken someone who'd gone before. But going with a friend suddenly broke down a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
Because I didn't talk to friends about sex. And here I was with this very sexual music video, still not talking to my friends about sex, not talking about what positions I like, and now, I'll send my friends nudes just to be like, how's this one?
Do you reckon this will work?
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone should be sending nudes to their friends that way, with permission. But if you do feel like it's too much of a world to enter, you take a friend or take someone who's been before, because that little bit of extra confidence could lead to a really great night.
Yeah.
And I did have a great night. I had a really good night and made out with my friend, which I really think everyone should try every now and then.
Yeah.
Friends are hot.
I think that's like a big thing in the queer and gay culture is
Aren't we lucky?
that friends can make out, and it can be just playful and frivolous and like...
God, it took me a long time to get rid of that, Joe. I'd get so attached. I'd go into boyfriend mode again.
Me too.
Sex, that means boyfriend.
Yeah.
Or partner. And then to strip that layer after layer away and just realizing sex was something that my body did.
Yeah.
And that everybody's bodies can do if they want, or hopefully they can. I'm so grateful to be queer.
Yeah, I think it's more present life now, like coming into present time. Actually, this is a question I had. So, House of Air, right? So the music video is very forward facing, but the song itself is very like, still poetic. It's not as like bold, like lyrically at the forefront, really saying it's sex, it's this, it's that. But then your most recent single is Fuck Me from the Front.
Yeah.
What and how is that different? What made you go, okay, I want to be like extremely explicit. I want to like say exactly what it is. And
I think because a few people have asked me that, and it does seem like Fuck Me from the Front should have been the song for House of Air, right? The music video. But I suppose for me that would have been a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
I liked the vague sense of commercial popness, and what I, to bring it back to where we started, I needed the song to stay in that commercial pop world.
Yes.
It needed, like, you should be able to hear the song House of Air at Coles as you're picking out your din-dins.
Yeah.
And there was something about that allows people to really focus. I think if it had been too much like I'm going to fist you or something like that in the song, it wouldn't have been such a surprise. But the front is, so the chorus of my latest single, the front is Fuck Me From the Front, which was actually more of a love thing. It's all about eye contact.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of people poo-pooing the missionary position, whereas I think it's a beautiful position. We have this amazing ability to have someone between our legs, looking in our eyes, and I think that's bliss, absolute bliss. If you're inside me and you've got eye contact,
Yes.
so hot. I think I'm just getting hornier as I get older as well.
Okay.
I thought it would go sort of the other way around.
How is that manifesting in your life outside of making songs called Fuck Me From the Front?
I feel I'm getting, maybe it's too early at 36 to be calling myself this, but I feel like it's important for me to start teaching now in a more explicit way, like to be talking about maybe the sex I've had, which is, why I was so excited when you called me for this. I have seen a lot of a change online. Now, I'm not saying, absolutely not saying this in any kind of reference to cancel culture, because I don't believe it exists. What I've seen is platforms becoming more conservative.
Yes.
In that hyper-robotic way, and that it sees a penis and deletes your post, or it sees a word and deletes, your poem or your art. So I think it's very important to remind Gen Z that our culture is very much built from sex.
Yes.
And that is our communication, and that it's not a bad thing at all. It's nothing to be ashamed of, something to be very proud of.
I think Gen Zs are very much like sex positive, like on a more like, I'm accepting, I'm inclusive, but I don't know how embodied that is. Like, I don't know how real that is in life. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sex positive. Sex is great. This is cool, blah, blah, blah. But is it actually something that you embody and practice in life, and or like really engage in it in community and celebrate it rather than just like say it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. But the practice, the invitation to somewhere like this is perhaps faded a little bit in the past 5 years. I did have a talk to Brian and Carl, the directors of House of Air, and we kind of agree that we wouldn't have gotten away with it these days. Something would have taken it down faster.
Yes.
And I wonder if that is why younger people are getting in this natural thing of not being a part of sex, because they're being taught over and over again every time they open their phones that if you talk about sex, if you depict sex, you don't get a platform anymore, which should infuriate them. So I am absolutely not blaming Gen Z. I think they've had it forced upon them. But you can see it in that hope. That hope of being more accepting of people. They just don't let themselves feel that hope. And so that's all I want.
Because I think things like on Netflix and a lot, especially, there's so much more queer representation,
isn't
and
it?
like things like the TV show Sex Education, and like there's so much conversation around it. But the practice is there, or like the I don't know what it is, why it's not as at the forefront at the moment in the matter of like feeling the younger culture really be participating in it moving forward. Maybe it's been a little bit too like gentrified, or like too at the forefront, that there is a certain level of it needing to go back into the shadows. Like I'm currently reading Bruce LaBruce's Porn Diaries, and he's talking about like how gentrified gayness has become, and that's why he does his like very punk-esque like taboo film porn that more agitates, and I think it's more about agitation is what's important, and maybe there is like a void of what is the agitation in 2024. I honestly don't know what is the agitation that is going to continue to push things forward, because a lot has been done, a lot has been done. And
I wonder what would happen if I released House of Air again today, and I think the same people that would have been for it maybe would not be for it anymore of this. Like, you don't need to do that, Brendan. You don't need to do that. But we don't need to do anything.
We don't need to do anything.
That's a great part of gay art is, so much of queer art was pushed aside of something we shouldn't see. And now suddenly we don't think we have to do it. We do have to be more bratty
have to do it
than ever.
I think that's another thing, like, for instance, things around like pride and like the Mardi Gras is like...
Well, gay people beginning to say, oh, we shouldn't have kink at pride. That's very prevalent from a lot of people. And I wonder how that got back inside of our souls.
Yeah.
So I would say to the artists out there, keep exploring those sexual parts of yourself.
I think it's the commercialization of everything. Like, like pride itself is very commercial now. Like, there's the joke of like in June and everyone, and then as soon as July hits, it
rainbows off.
All right,
back to work.
But like sacredness, I think about often is like, is it better that things do go behind the veils again? Like, cool, let's not exploit our stuff. That's a question that I often come up, especially like, I'm very much about spirituality, and there's certain things that are behind the veils, rather than having to put it all at the forefront. Is there a level of queerness and gayness wanting to go back behind the veils to, again, like cook and permeate, and it's like between albums, you sort of have to go and live some life rather than be at the forefront of like, because then you haven't lived any life. If you're just touring and doing press nonstop,
the very idea of a dark room.
Exactly. So it's like
fun of going off the dance floor and behind there and seeing what we can explore. You're right. There is that push and pull of maybe it is sexier to have it in the shadows.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's where we were pushed to.
Yes.
That's why we started doing it in the shadows.
Yeah.
I think getting that balance right, but maybe you never do. Maybe it's this constant pendulum.
Yes.
Between...
I was just writing about this yesterday. A friend said to me, like, balance isn't being static in the middle, it's learning to master the waves of up and down.
Beautiful.
So sometimes we got to be really out there, and then other times we got to go back to the dark room, and then we got to be really out there and then back to the dark room and see what that inspires in life.
Yeah.
I truly believe that there's like a way.
Funny that we're both talking about how vanilla we are. we're very adventurous people.
Very adventurous.
Otherwise, but I think
it's relative. It's very relative.
It's all relative. Yeah. I'd just say try everything.
Try everything.
Everything.
What is like the next thing you want to try? It's specifically when it comes to cruising and gay, queer culture.
I think I want to host an orgy at my house. I've never done that.
Okay.
I don't know what the
applications in the bio.
Please send. Like, what do I need? Do I need to set up some cheese or crackers at the beginning? I love an orgy at somebody's house. I think it's so inventive. It's throwing a really cool party.
Yes.
And if you succeed in making everyone feel horny and safe, like...
what else is there to do in life?
What else is there to do? If you can't do that, come to the Sydney Sauna and have sex here. But, I'd love to have a place where people knew that they could come and watch some music and then have sex. So maybe... right now we have dance floors and sex rooms. You know what I'd love is me on a grand piano and maybe just someone fucking next to me.
Okay.
I remember playing at Folsom. Me and Johnny Seymour played Folsom Fair in San Francisco, and I was forever in the house of air, and then looking up in the corner and there's someone being bottomed and topped out of that window, and over here somebody else having sex. It was beautiful.
Living in the music video of life.
That's right.
Yes.
So I've done a music video with a very poppy song. I've done a very slutty song. I think the next step for me will be bringing those Venn diagrams together, and finally it might be a circle around my face. I think that would be hard.
Bringing it more into your intimate life.
Yeah, because as you get older, it's less and less important to me what the rest of the world thinks.
Yes.
And I just want to know that I had all the greatest sex that I could.
Oh, that's a question that I had is like being sexually liberated, being very out there, the music videos that you've done, the topics that you've hit, the things that you have done is you have parents, you have family, you have this, that, and this is like, what was your process of like, you know, there's the first coming out, but then there's the coming out over and over. I feel like coming out is a forever process. Yeah. But like, you know, that's a certain thing. People very much like, yeah, I want to live this life, but I don't want people to know about it. And how was that process for you to be like, yeah, no, everyone's going to know about this?
Yeah, I had a mother who talked about her sex a lot.
Okay.
You know, she was very open about the idea that a lot of people, and, you know, for her, she got up and used her vibrator pretty much every day in the shower because it got her ready for the day.
Oh, okay, great.
And then I had a much more footy playing conservative dad. And it was just more about letting him know when maybe the videos were going to get too intense. So I was definitely like...
Just giving you a heads up that...
You can watch the first 30 seconds of House of Air, Dad, but maybe stop after that.
Once the eye contact in that first scene happens, all right,
that's about as far as you can get.
Scene.
But, you know, I've walked in on them having sex. Okay. I know that, you know, parents have sex. Grandparents have sex. Yes. Oh. And it works in both ways in this way that maybe parents and grandparents don't like to discuss the fact that their underage kids are probably having sex. And then in reverse, we also know that we don't want to hear about
our overaged parents are having,
And so we did have, we talk about it all the time. I was talking to my parents about House of Air yesterday, and we just are very open about the fact that we all have sex. And if that's all you can do as a parent, if that's the closest you can get to having a sexual conversation, just saying that it's natural, it's everywhere, it's all around you, it's happening whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Whether or not you film it on film and put it up on the internet is a different question that I'm not sure everybody has to answer.
Not everyone has to do, but I guess that's the thing.
Do you think porn is becoming more with the rise of OnlyFans
and like Twitter and
it's not that hard to find out your son has an OnlyFans account, right?
Yeah, but there is like a level of like, you know, I think OnlyFans is still behind a certain like paywall, for instance, where it's like, okay, there's levels. It's like, okay, yes, we all agree. We have sex. Mum and Dad, you have sex. Okay.
But are you a sex worker? Are you a sex artist?
Yeah, you're a sex artist. Is like, does everyone here know that you have sex? You know, like, I think
do they even need to know?
Do they need to know? But like, there is, again, like, okay, cool. Like you're saying, your parents know you have sex, you know they have sex. But then what's the process of like, even your internal process of knowing that, okay, the world is going to know that I have sex. And not only like, is it you having sex? It's like, yeah, it's very out there.
Yeah, I suppose it goes down to, I had a heterosexual boy. I was, you know, horrified at the fact that I couldn't talk to my father about the sex I was having. And he just said, Brendan, I don't talk to my dad about the women that I have sex with. I think it's a very personal thing in the queer community because we're not having the same sex as our parents. Almost, you know, 99% of the time, our parents aren't queer.
Yeah.
So that's the barrier I think we're actually nervous about, is that's the final stamp that we're saying, no, I have sex with people with penises. And you're going to have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, great if you're a golden gay with lesbian or gay parents.
Yes.
But I think I'm getting much better as I go along at knowing who to talk to about my sex. But I'm just forever going to be curious about everyone's sex.
Yes, me too.
And I like that about me.
In our culture, and you were just mentioning Folsom and like different places that you've been, is that, what do you feel about Australia's conversations around sex? even we're just off camera talking about sex in public and nude beaches and like Sydney, in just all of Australia, is not as evolved in that as certain places, and there's other places that we are progressively way further ahead. But you know, you did Folsom, where it's like you're in different, and just like sex is on the street, and it's like just accepted and done. No, I don't think you'd get away with that even at Mardi Gras here in Australia. You know, and then, you know, I've been to Germany and Berlin and like been to CSD and
the Berghain Laboratory.
all these places where it's just very at the forefront, or like going to the lakes in Berlin, where it's like you can, there's sections of the park where you can just be naked, and it's very normal. And I remember the first time being at Leipzig, which in Berlin, and the differences between being at like a little Kongwong here, where you can sort of feel the sexual undertones there because it's still a bit taboo. But when I was at the nude lake in Berlin, I was like, I can't feel anyone's like gaze on me. I can't feel the sexual undertones here because it's so normalized.
And nudity is normalized as well, which goes back to that, you know, why are we so terrified of our own bodies? It's extreme. And, you know, it's interesting that Australia sees itself as such a laid-back country where we're really not. We're quite nervous about talking about sex, having it on our television screens. And, you know, it does get closer every year, that conversation about what can and can't be at Pride. So, yeah, I do feel that when I come back home, this kind of like, oh, pull it back. They're not, are they ready for that conversation? But I just don't think as a community we can wait.
No.
There's no time. There's not that much time on earth. If people are going to be upset with something you put on YouTube, well, I probably will never meet you.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
Not sorry. Exactly. Exactly. But I hope that more places like the Sydney Sauna exist.
Yes.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
More sex on premise, more dance parties where you can go into a dark room and have sex, because as we said, sex is happening everywhere and all around us. You might as well do it in a safe, fun, entertaining way.
Well, that's the thing. Like places like this make it safer.
Yeah.
It takes it out of the shadows. I know we've just been talking about that, but like, you know, how dangerous it was to cruise, you know, like there's gay bashings and gay deaths because of that. And okay, cool. Here is a place where it's contextualized, you know, much like how we're talking about the swingers parties. It's contextualized there. It's contextualized here where it is safe. Okay, at the nude beaches, it's contextualized, but can we have more of that? Not can we. We are claiming more.
We are claiming more of that, taking it back. You know, that's why I'm so proud when I do watch Pride and there is a kink float or a leather float. Like, thank God for those floats that keep showing people, no, we're still here. We still exist in this way, and we really like our sex.
Yes.
That's the cool thing. We like this sex. It brings us joy. It brings us community. And it brings us some hope that maybe someday we'll stop being so ashamed of our bodies, that looking at each other's bodies, what better way is there to beat body shame than all of us kind of just standing there in a room naked? You've got a body part with, you know, a funny elbow thing or something on your back. Well, so do I. Here's my body.
Here's my body. Here's my
then
size.
I still love it, and I still want to suck your dick.
Yeah.
You know, like
so beautiful at a nude beach, just like just feeling the moments of humanness. Like one of the weird, like, again, experiences here of like having an experience with someone and really feeling the humanness, no barriers, no armors, no masks, no nothing. And then sometimes I have a moment I really don't like it, and I sort of like it, is like if I've hooked up with someone here and then we both are in a locker and we're putting on our clothes, and I like sort of
are you putting on your normal outside,
like getting a story of who they are, or my preconceived notions that don't really happen when we're all naked, is like, oh, I think, you know, oh, you are this, you know, whatever it is. Oh, you're a banker and I didn't expect that. Or you're a this, you're a that. Are you even out? You know, like whatever it is, then I'm all these stories. But yeah, when we have that moment of like, all right, everyone's armor's down, everyone is on the same level. We don't have any kind of hierarchy of like whatever labels, Gucci, Nike, or Lowe's, or whatever, is just like that I see you, you see me, this is what you have, this is what I have.
It's such a relief. Yeah, such a beautiful relief. And you know what I found is that I didn't know I had such a mask up myself. I was surprised by how freed I was being in those dark rooms. So yeah, not only will you be joyfully surprised by the rest of your community, you might be surprised by yourself as well.
Any last things you want to say, either about what you've got coming up, anything that you wish for the queer community, anything that you're calling in to the future?
Yeah, if you run a venue, find a dark room. Yeah, as I've learnt from circuit down in Melbourne, sometimes it just needs to be a curtain. If you're a gay in the government, find a way for that to be more legal places. And if you have never been to a sauna, treat yourself. Grab a friend, go to the sauna. As for me, I'll just keep bringing out sexy gay music. Yes, I think that'll do. Oh, and I am still wearing a really nice.
Yes, show us.
That's the bum. There we go. Gold plated. Yeah. Buy yourself sexy clothing. You'll be surprised. Just dive into sex.
Dive in. Explore. Meet your new edge. Just push against shame over and over because it's not yours.
Yeah.
It's not ours. It's been put upon us, and I'm constantly moving forward with that. So I wish that upon everyone else. I wish this.
Kiss your friends. Kiss your friends if you can.
Yeah, kiss your friends. and don't forget to apply for Brendan's orgy
house party.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mwah.